Hello and welcome to the Not My Job Pod. I am your host, Emily Gant, and today we are joined by my lovely friend, Heather Villasenor, who is a registered behavioral health clinician focused on youth and family. So thank you so much for being here today.
Course, happy to be here.
Nice. So I think I'm excited for this one because I think in the modern age, all of us have therapists, psychiatrists, psychologists. We all have, someone that we talk to and want to get more information from. So it's always fun when one of my actual friends is that person.
That's me. Still in training to a certain extent. I'll be licensed in the next year or so.
Also, I think it's interesting the concept of like training because right now, even though you are, quote unquote in training, not quote unquote, you are in training, there is a process, but you still see patients regularly and you still work in the field. So can you tell me a little bit more about what that looks like?
Yeah, very much so. So like when I was in grad school, still getting my master's in marriage and family therapy, I was technically a trainee, so under close supervision of a licensed clinician and providing direct services. The only thing is like the supervision ratio is a little bit higher there when you're still in school. And then once I graduated and passed a law and ethics exam, I need like less supervision compared to clinical hours. But yeah, so for the next few years, once I get 3,000 hours, I have supervision. But otherwise, yeah, like they just let you set you up in a room, with a client, and they're like, okay, do it.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of how you have to learn any skill, right? You have to just jump in and start doing it, and then you learn along the way.
Yes.
But I think what's interesting to me is when we met during Peace Corps. We were both in the Peace Corps, and you at that time had graduated with a bachelor's degree. But even then, this was years ago, and even then you were very like set on wanting to be a therapist and wanting to go into that field. So has that just always been consistent your entire life?
I mean, to a certain extent, I think that people who end up in this like helping profession kind of take that role in their family kind of naturally. I found myself, with people, family members, friends, strangers throughout my life, finding them being like, oh my gosh, I've never said that to anybody before. I was like, oh, maybe I could like do this professionally and like be a therapist. I did try like in the Peace Corps and a little bit before and after try and make like the school setting fit for me, like maybe education or just like childcare. And it didn't quite click. It didn't quite vibe with me. So yeah, there was like this thing in my head. I was like, I want to be a therapist. But I kind of got on that trajectory like officially when I was probably 15. And by the time I was 17, choosing where I wanted to go to college and stuff, I was like, I don't know. I felt too young to make that a decision officially. So, yes and no. I was kind of going that direction, but there's kind of a debate in the field of like, is being a therapist a profession or a calling?
I like that
So,
though, because I think the people who you pour your heart out to in a therapy session should be there because they feel like it's a calling. So that's really nice to hear that you care about your job. But so in the Peace Corps though, you were saying that you were kind of considering like obviously exploring options, kind of going down the childcare route or, educational. So what kind of solidified for you that you wanted to go into studying to become a therapist?
so much enjoy looking at the relationships between people, right? Like I just in working with kiddos, you see some of their issues coming out and honestly a lot of the time I'd be like, the parents, like if only I could have a real deal conversation with parents and like maybe it could like they could like restructure some of the things they're doing at home and like these kids would have a better path forward, right? Like, I don't really like therapy with adults because they're really stubborn, stuck in their ways, and just like more concreted in these like certain mental pathways. Whereas like kids, there's so many ways that they could go. Anyway, I was just seeing like a lot of family dynamics and stuff, and that's really what I was like attracted to in Tong, like in the Peace Corps. I would look more at like what are the dynamics between classmates? What are the dynamics between parent and child? What are the like society? And I just didn't get like a very big, I didn't really get a thrill when like a kid learned something where other educators would. They'd be like, I love that moment where something clicks in the kid's head. And I'm like, cool. I
You didn't
don't,
feel it.
no, I didn't feel it. I was like, okay, good, correct answer, moving on. Like,
But I
yeah,
guess that's
something
an
in me.
interesting take though, because also in therapy, I feel like there's obviously there's light bulb moments, but I imagine that when you're working with younger kids, it's not like there's no correct answers in therapy per se.
Yeah.
So I guess how for you, what does a moment look like when you're like, ah, this kid got it?
Those moments are so exciting. And it'll be like, it'll be like a kid, like considering something a little different. And there's a lot of blaming. It's like, oh, it's their fault, it's their fault, it's their fault. I can't do anything about it. I'm like such a victim or something. And then being like, oh, well, maybe I could have done this thing different. Like, I know that's super vague, but those moments where just a little consideration shifts, or I hear a child or parent going about an interaction differently, right? Like typically it might end up in a big blow up or ending up in the hospital. Because I work with pretty high intensity clients. If they just like did something a little different, even if it didn't quite work, if it like some people self harm, or indulge in substances and like to an unsafe amount, like say the time between thinking about self-harm and the time actually like self-harming, if that took longer than typical, like I'm celebrating. I don't know, there's something in me that I'm like, heck yeah, that's progress. That's amazing. You did something different for 15
Yeah.
minutes. Like that's the aha moment.
I mean, even on like a less, definitely a less serious vein. I mean, I even see
Yeah.
that just within my, no, I mean, I do want to get serious. I think that's incredibly important, but I think that's like a general, like good thing to remember for all of us. Just if I, feel frustrated and then I want to snap at someone, but then there's like this voice in my head that's like, hey, maybe don't say that right now and like think about it for an hour. And then if you still
Yeah.
want to say it, you can still go say it. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's me growing up a little bit.
Yeah, those little moments where you're like, ooh, not writing that angry email or being like, I'm gonna take a walk because, trying to figure out this paperwork right now is really frustrating me instead of tearing it up.
Yeah, that was me literally this morning. I had to do like some paperwork for my insurance company, and it was just routine, normal stuff, but I was getting really frustrated. And then I decided to walk away. I'll do it
Hey,
tomorrow. Um,
exactly. Like those are the times I so want to celebrate with clients.
yeah, definitely. I do want to touch though briefly before we kind of jump forward into everything that you're doing now on our experience in the Peace Corps, because a lot of people do ask me about that. And I was only there for 1 year, but you were there for the full 2 years and change, 27 months, I believe. Um,
Yeah.
so how, I guess, because obviously you said that you liked hearing about the different kind of parent and family dynamics in Tonga, and then also, seeing that now in your clients. So obviously the cultural nuances are very different between clients in the US and then the families that we were working with in Tonga. So kind of how has that experience shaped you, or yeah, how do you feel about it in general, about Peace Corps in general? It's kind of an open question.
Okay, well, Peace Corps in general and then Peace Corps in context of my profession is different. Like Peace Corps in general, mixed bag. Like the good, the bad, and the
Yeah.
ugly. It was not something I would take away from my early 20-year-old self, but I wouldn't necessarily redo it.
Mhm.
Like if now, like would I sign up again? Although sometimes I joke around about like, I'm just gonna go to Peace Corps, it still exists.
Yeah, with the budget cuts, it might not be around for much longer.
I know, I know. But yeah, Peace Corps, it was difficult, it was weird. I think part of the biggest thing was really just like opening your eyes up to culture. When you grow up inside one certain culture, you might have a hard time seeing what defines culture. And so when you
Mhm.
step outside of that comfort zone or the things that you typically like expect out of culture and other people, like you can see it more. And I think that was a really important experience, just like kind of in life. How impactful I was in the education sector, I honestly don't know. I mean, I helped at least one kiddo like get to a good high school, so I think that's cool.
I
She
think
was my bestie.
that is absolutely that's impact though. You helped somebody get something that they wanted, so that's a win. But I
Yeah.
think what people don't realize about Peace Corps is it's kind of marketed as, I could go on to like a whole like colonization thing about it. And I'm not going to do that because honestly, that's not the point of today. But I think what Peace Corps is marketed as is like experts go in to help out local communities. And the reality is you get there and 80% of the people are in their early 20s and have no life experience. But I feel this way about like consultants who like go in and they're 22 and they work in finance at Deloitte. I'm like, what do you really have to share with the world? You have nothing. But it's marketed as like we're going to help the people. And then in reality, it's this really great experience for, young Americans who like need to learn things about the world, but I don't think it drives much impact for the local community.
Yeah, I mean, I think yes and no, especially where we were and how like entrenched the Peace Corps was just into their education system. Is like it was just kind of an assumed like teacher's aide almost
Yeah,
versus a tool being utilized effectively. So yeah, it was very like
that's a much more diplomatic way to put it. I like that.
that's
Very
what I
measured,
do.
very good response. Yeah, that is
Yes,
what you
yeah,
do.
yeah.
But then going from that to, yeah, how did that experience solidify? Because it's no joke, like becoming a therapist, like you left the Peace Corps, had to go get a master's and then start this like, multi-year process that you're still working on to like becoming a fully fledged therapist. So like what did that look like
Sure.
for you and did Peace Corps shape it at all or not at all?
Peace Corps was kind of more of a delaying the inevitable in a way,
Mhm.
for me because I was like you said, like I was pretty set on it, but it was like I didn't want to graduate being a therapist at 23 or something, counseling people how to parent their child. Even now at like 30, almost 31, I'm like, I don't have kids. And it feels weird to be like, this is how you should parent your teenager. I don't know. I don't have that lived experience. So I was like, let me just get some age on me. Let me go learn about some people. And I've always been really interested in like grief. Like if I ever did a PhD or something, my research would for sure be in like international cultural approaches to grief and bereavement. So that was an
Mhm.
opportunity to see up close, like how does this culture grieve people after death?
And I think Tonga has a really special, that was something I really appreciated about Tonga, was their approach to grief. For those who don't know it, and correct me and add or subtract, but basically it's a celebration of life. This whole community comes together and obviously there's grief, but there's like just so much joy. It's like people are singing songs, they're together, they're cooking
Totally.
food. It's like it kind of turns into a little bit of a party. People are sharing stories. And it was like, I don't know, it was a very unique feeling because it was incredibly, incredibly joyful, but then also like in its own way kind of somber. And I can imagine that it's a lot easier to move on from something like, a death in that kind of context.
Yeah, very much acknowledged and embraced.
Is that something that you think you would, or I guess, how has that changed how you kind of view grief?
Has it changed? I think I approach it with my clients. I want to understand, like, in your family, like in a wider culture, how do you guys grieve? And then in your family unit, how do you grieve? Do you
Hmm.
grieve? Some people try to ignore it. Some
Hmm.
people do very like rote, okay, well, now we have to have a somber religious ceremony and show the body or whatever. It makes me really curious just about like, so how have you grieved in the past? How do you feel about it? Does your family talk about it? Sometimes families after somebody passes don't talk about the deceased anymore,
Hmm.
which is the way they operate, and that can feel really uncomfortable for little kiddos that miss granny, like.
Hmm.
So yeah, watching in the Peace Corps how it was like so in Tonga, it was like so open. It was like such a public affair to be like, there's a funeral here. Like anyone, come one, come all, come eat, come sit, come cry, come laugh, come, like It's not this secret thing of like, oh, don't talk to them. They're grieving because grandma died. Just
Mhm.
very different. And I did really appreciate that. It was definitely the first time I kissed a dead body, and that was unique. I didn't know the guy either. Yeah. The dad of one of my
I mean,
students
yeah.
died, and it was like, okay, everybody's got to come. And then like you're like trailing through their front room, and there's the gentleman who's dead, and it's like a thing. You like go like kiss the body, and it's like, okay, that's not typical everywhere else, right? But I'm like, oh, I gotta be like culturally sensitive, and now I'm like, I don't even know you. Bye.
That's so funny. However, I don't think I've heard this story from you. I mean, granted, a lot of us had a lot of firsts in Tonga. Like I killed a pig. I ate a bat. I
Wait,
did
I
not
didn't
ki-
know
I did not
those.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I was all up on those things. I did not kiss any dead bodies.
Okay.
So,
Two.
yeah. Okay. That's a good one.
Okay.
That's a good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. And I ate
Yeah.
horse.
Okay. I did not do. I think I've eaten horse before though, but not when I was in Tonga. I went like fishing and then they just pulled the fish out of the water and then just popped it open, cut slices and like gave it to me. And I thought to myself, I was like, this is disgusting. And then I realized I was like, this is the freshest fish you've ever. I was like, eat that. Like,
Ever. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. So
More
I think
rugged.
I don't know. I look back on Tonga and I'm like, that was a weird. I don't know if I would sign up again. I don't know if I would do that again. I'm grateful for the people I met and the
Yes.
experiences that I got to have. But again, that's kind of more about me than it is about the wider community that I was supposed to be serving. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. There was something uniquely isolating about our setting, I think.
Mhm.
And the further I've gotten away from my experience in Peace Corps, the more I can admit, like, oh, I was like deeply depressed for most of it.
Mhm.
So,
I
like,
mean, yeah, it was because it's hard to say, it's hard to explain to people that you wake up, or in my case, I was on a small island of 200 people. I would wake up, I would go see the beautiful, beautiful crystal clear waters. The whales are doing a mating dance right in front of me. I get to go swimming on the reef every day. I had a tan because it was beautifully sunny. The weather was perfect. My neighbors were incredibly kind, and I was so depressed. And
yeah.
I think if I could go back now, I would have a completely different experience because I think I would really lean into like the time kind of spent alone or in the community. I just wasn't equipped. I wasn't equipped for it at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
But
Sometimes I look back and I'm like, if only like current day me could have gone back. That's something that I've had to work on literally like in my own therapy is giving that version of Heather so much compassion and empathy because I would find myself really critical and be like, why didn't I just like I had so many pep talks to myself of like just go out there, just like try and speak Tongan, just like leave the house. And then the next day would be exactly the same and I'd feel just as crappy. And the one moment of beauty I'd have is just like staring at the sunset. I literally remember like climbing up as high as I could on a building one day to just like catch the continued joy of like watching the sunset because I was like, this is my happiness today. And
yeah,
but it's wild to yeah, be like, I'm in this like paradise place and feel so lonely. Like that's the importance though of community, of connection,
Mhm.
of feeling and knowing that you're included, not just allowed somewhere.
Yeah, I think yeah, I totally agree. It's yeah, the feeling of inclusion that really makes all the difference. But I like what you said too about kind of giving your past self a little bit of grace because I do that a lot where I think of something that I did in the past and I'm like why did you do it this way? Why did you handle it this way? I'm just like beating myself up over it.
Mhm.
And in reality, I didn't have the same tools or I didn't, and I'm sure in 10 years beat myself up for something that I'm doing now.
Right? Yeah.
I just don't know what that is yet. So yeah, like I don't personally, I'm lucky that I have actually a lot of friends who are therapists. So I feel like sometimes I do run things by them, but also that's not the same because they're my friends, they're not objective. And so I absolutely do see the value though in therapy for people who, want to pursue that route. And it's done wonders for so many people in my life. And I have, gone to therapy in the past. It just, wasn't for me or it was for me at a specific time. And then, after a specific time, no. But do you, as a therapist, go to therapy?
Yes, I
Or do you
do.
think that, so like, what is that like? Are you kind of like looking at your therapist, like, I know what you're doing?
Little bit, honestly, like sometimes, especially early on when I was like very much learning the skills like in class, right? I'd be like, maybe I would have done that differently. But no, because like validation feels good whether you know that somebody's doing it to you or not. And that is
Mhm,
a lot of what I need in therapy. I do it like every other week just for some
mhm,
maintenance kind of stuff. Like sometimes you get a little bogged down and it's nice to chat some things through with
mhm.
somebody you don't have to maintain a relationship with after. I mean, not that I'm like, fuck
Right.
you to my therapist, but
Yeah.
it's just like, this is all about me and I don't have to care about you right now.
Yeah. No, but that's incredibly valuable. I mean, also the fact that it's an important call out that like you don't have to be depressed to go to therapy. It can just be like I'm paying someone for their time to listen to my problems, and like that is a therapeutic service as well, who can help
Exactly.
you work through it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, totally. I mean, it is tricky because, like, technically, if you're using insurance
Hmm.
for your therapy, you do need to have a diagnosis. But, like, almost anybody can fit some diagnosis at almost any
Hmm.
given time. There are so many. Like, it's not a bad thing to have, like, a mental health diagnosis.
Hmm. I mean, so what you're telling me is that we're all mentally ill. Everyone's mentally ill in
We
their own
are, yeah.
special way.
Oh, yes, we are
Yeah.
all definitely
Yeah.
own it.
But do you think, because you always read articles about how like mental illness is on the rise, do you think that that's true, or there's just more awareness, or is it a combination of both? Like, is it because of society and the news and the media, or, are we just talking about it more? What's your take on that?
I am a strong believer of it's never just one thing, you know? So I
Hmm.
do think that there's more knowledge, there's more acceptance, there's also, yeah, like more exposure to the scary things that are happening in the world. You have videos, pictures where, maybe in the past there was like a picture and a written news article that you would have to buy the paper and read it to know you're not like there's just so much more media consumption. So like as far as feeling more fearful, more depressive, more cynical, like all of that makes sense because we just have more. And our brains are honestly like less and less equipped to deal with
Hmm.
the more.
Yeah.
I think we're pretty wired for like really relaxed scenarios. And we constantly, as humans, are putting ourselves in high stress, high stimulation settings instead.
I recently read a productivity book. It's even like cringy to me that I was reading a productivity book. It's called Time Management for Mortals.
Ooh.
And I thought it was going to be like this book about, how I can fit more into my day, because lately I have different things that I want to be doing. And I was like, how can I be more efficient? And this entire book was just like the case for like, bitch, sit down and stop doing so much. and,
Yes.
and I was like, this kind of hurt my feelings, loud and clear. Good point. Good point. Yeah, 10 out of 20, 10 out of 10, 20 out of 10 book.
Oh
But
my
yeah, like what is the
gosh.
importance and role of relaxation in kind of how our brains, you know, neutralize? Like why? Why do we have to relax? Why is rest so important?
It like I don't even know how to describe it. It's so important to allow yourself to be bored. It's so important to allow your mind to wander. It is important to be bored. It's important to do mundane tasks. That's time when we figure out some of these problems that we face, right? Like you might be like washing dishes and then realize like, oh, it actually bothered me, that interaction, and then like you can think about that more. Or um you're in a waiting room and like choose not to be on your phone and can kind of think about your day or someone you love. Just letting your mind wander can be a very nice and is pretty essential for calming the nervous system. Not always being activated by something.
Yeah, I think in our society, it's so easy to constantly like have your brain looking at something. Even, you're walking, you're listening to something, you're sitting, you're scrolling on your phone, multiple screens all the time. And yeah, I think it's almost uncomfortable to let your mind wander
Hmm.
sometimes now because we never do it, and that's not good.
Yeah, yeah. Rarely let our minds wander. We rarely let our minds wonder, right? We're gonna look it up. What was the name of that? I'm just gonna Google it, you know?
Actually, that's true. Yeah, I mean, why do any sort of reasoning when I can just like go ask the internet and then get the
Hmm.
answer immediately? But yeah, there's kind of fun to be had in the process, and learnings there. But yeah, I
Sure.
do want to switch gears a little bit and start. I do want to get into sort of what you're doing now and how it differs from like, so for instance, if someone was listening to this and they were like, wow, I just really, I liked Heather, I want her to be my therapist. You've already said you don't like dealing with adults very much. Family dynamics far more interesting to you, but so you're not in a private practice, is that correct? Or what's kind of
Correct.
the setup?
So I work for a local county in California, which can be a difficult concept to consider. Like I'm literally employed by the Department of Health Services of the County of Sonoma, and I'm in the behavioral health division. I'm in the youth and family services section. There's all kinds of different, portions of it, but I do hold my own caseload. So I am a clinician and case manager for children 0 to 22 years old with severe mental health concerns and behaviors. They do have to be Medi-Cal, full scope Medi-Cal clients. So that, or recipients. Full scope Medi-Cal recipients are, like their parents or caregivers make a certain amount of money. And so the state provides their healthcare services.
Hmm.
And even more specifically, my program is funded by a tax on people in California who make over $1 million. So,
I love that.
yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I love that California, not the US, but California is taxing people with a ton of money and giving it back to people who don't have so much. I know this is a very, European opinion of me, but yeah, I am all for taxing the rich to give to people who don't have as many opportunities because when you're just paying out of pocket for therapy, it can run you between 200 and like $1,000 an hour. So I don't know, maybe some like
Okay.
celebrity therapist in New York. I'm just making things up. I don't know. But yeah, it's expensive. Is my
You
point.
know what? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm imagining that like some
No, no, no,
celebrity
no.
is paying like a
You're
thousand dollars an
probably
hour.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I
On it,
love that. You
yeah.
wanted to. Yeah, I love that you wanted to work with people who maybe don't have the means to just pay out of pocket. But honestly, I don't think most people have that kind of means to pay out of pocket for those services, even regardless of income. It's quite an expense. And then I love that California does that. So that's fantastic. But sort of what are some of the sort of issues that you see that kind of recur in the clients that you have, just in general?
Yeah, so the clients that come my way have a variety of experiences. Typically, there's a lot of trauma for my kiddos, but they need to have a certain level of like behavioral impair or like functional impairments. So that could mean like difficulty going to school for whatever their reasons are. They could be getting in a lot of fights. They could be getting arrested a lot. Sometimes I'll see kiddos that are later in the reunification stages after like a removal, like if Child Protective Services took the child away from the parent, then probably several months after, they might come into my care so I can help them with that transition. My department and program is not connected to Child Protective Services whatsoever, even though we're all in the county system. But sometimes we work with similar kiddos. I will have clients who either have severe self harm or maybe they're in and out of the hospital for danger to themselves, danger to other people, gravely disabled, which means like severe issues taking care of themselves at like a similar level to somebody else's, like to a similar aged person. Probably sounds really
Mhm.
vague, but the specifics can be a little heartbreaking. So really high needs
No,
kiddos.
yeah, I think Yeah, I'm curious kind of how you can protect yourself through that as well, because I imagine that you do get very detailed in the ins and outs of these specific stories. And then I guess, I don't know, I'm just imagining how I would feel that you kind of need to fix it or get involved, and I'm sure there's like certain barriers to how involved you can get or you should get, and kind of, does somebody teach you how to draw that line? Have you kind of learned over time how to draw that line? Maybe there's times where you don't draw the line. How does it affect you that you have to see this day in and day out?
It's a process figuring out how to keep myself safe and whole while still wholeheartedly supporting my clients. I have found myself maybe like a little more cynical about people and how they can hurt each other, whether intentionally or by accident, I guess. But
Can you give an example of how you kind of have, like, maybe a belief that you have that has become more cynical over time? It can be like an example that's not related to a client, but like I'm trying to understand what you mean by that. Like before you would
I'm just
assume that what does that mean?
I'm just like less trustworthy, right? Where I'm like anybody could be a freaking abuser, man. Like you might seem all squeaky clean and like so nice, but like anyone can do anything behind closed doors and
Hmm.
people, human beings, our minds are so good at telling ourselves stories, at making justifications for like bad behavior or harmful behavior. And I think I've just like kind of seen that. So it's like genuinely like people and I appreciate them when I get to know their stories. And when I'm just like out in the world, I kind of like look at everybody with a little side eye, like, what are your motivations?
Interesting.
What's your story, man?
So you're not so
Does
fast to
that
trust
make sense?
random people. Yeah, that does. That does.
Yeah,
Um, and
right.
it's
Like
it's a good
I'll
call out
greet
though, because
I will still greet somebody cheerfully and still be like treat everyone like a snake oil salesman, if you've heard that saying before.
Mhm. Yeah. No, but I mean, it's true. I mean, you hear, stories of just horrendous abuse that have happened to either friends or, you read about it or something like that. And it's like, he did that or she did that. And it's hard to believe. Yeah, you don't know what happens behind closed doors.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true. But
And that's a little
I think,
scary.
yeah, some of the ways that I stay positive or like, just continue to be myself and care about myself and care about the people in my world that, they shouldn't have to bear the brunt of me being stressed about my clients. It's like I have certain rituals sometimes. Depending on how intense the day was, I literally have this like sage spray in my car. So I'll like set intentions and like spray it. I'll open the windows and let like the bad, icky, heavy parts of the day like float away from me. I am also, my clients have called me out, but I have a work phone. And like the moment that I clock out, I turn it on airplane mode. I'm like, I am not available. I am off. And I have that ability because I work in such a protective system in the county that like I don't have to be on call 24/7. So if there's a
Hmm.
crisis, like I've told you how to get help and I am not that help. I love you. I'm gonna talk to
Yeah.
you at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Don't call me.
Yeah.
You know?
Honestly, though, I think more people should adapt that within their jobs. I don't know, I can't really talk because I specifically like my job now because it's flexible hours. And so for my lifestyle, that's perfect. But then also sometimes it means that, I'm reading a Slack message at like 11 o'clock in the morning. And then I'm like, I should go look at that spreadsheet. But that's on me. Like nobody's forcing me to do that. But I do think there are, because I don't go into an office. So also it's like
Oh yeah,
very, yeah, like I do random bits of work throughout the day, like little productivity blocks or whatever. But I do think more people
totally.
kind of need to draw that line where, if you're not on, then just be off. Like, because if you're still got like 20% of your brain thinking about it, then that's going to seep into your day to day.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing is like whether or not my clients have access to me or not, they are still in my brain. They are still in my heart. Like
Hmm.
sure there are times where I'm not actively considering them, but like if I'm scrolling on Instagram, if I'm watching a movie, listening to music, like even just driving somewhere, sometimes I'll think about my clients. I'll be like, this would really work for so and so, or like, dang, I hope that that one client was able to go to the beach this weekend with their family. They were really looking forward to that, like so deeply care. And it's like they pop in my head no matter what. My gosh, like I can tell I've had a stressful week at work when 3 a.m. I'm waking up and I'm like, I'm creating a case conceptualization basically, which means like I think about my client and I think about like what are the things in their lives that are causing stuckness or pain and suffering, and like how can things shift. And I'm like considering like, okay, what should we do next session? Like freaking 3
Hmm.
a.m. Really? I love you guys,
Yeah.
but
You're
Jesus,
like,
So I'm like the 40 hours a week
yeah.
I get paid to actually do this is
Hmm.
adequate because I'm really doing it way more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious as well because you pour so much into the clients that you have. And then are there cases where you see tons of growth in someone and you're like, wow, you've worked with them. Like, how long do you work with the average client? And like, do you really get to see a lot of changes, or do you pick up with someone like a year later? Or like, do you get to kind of see the fruits of your labor in progress, or
Um,
the fruits of their labor? They do the work.
Yeah, they do. As with so many things in psychology and therapy, the answer is it always depends. Generally, in the program I work for right now, we're supposed to have clients somewhere between like 6 months to a year. For their level of need, that's called a short-term intensive, even though, you think,
Hmm.
okay, a year of like weekly services, that sounds kind of long. But it kind of varies. I mean, fortunately, recently I've had some clients that have just kind of disappeared, like just kind of ghosted me. So that feels weird. And you're like, I don't know if that's progress. Like, I don't know if they stopped talking to me because they're doing super well or they're doing really badly again and like don't know how to address it. And then other times it's like, oh my gosh, you've done so much. Like sitting there in awe and wow and celebration, talking to parent and child about like, do you remember 8 months ago when like everything was kind of shitty, right? Think about now, like you did that. Like things are different because you worked really hard. That's
Yeah.
it's super exciting, and so it's a mixed bag
Hmm.
again.
And have you ever been in a situation where, the kid, like, I don't know, you see, like, you're like, oh, I just love this kid, but then, like, the parents aren't kind of doing their part, or maybe vice versa. Like, the parents really have good intentions, but the kid just doesn't want to be there, or kind of how do you navigate that situation?
Yeah, for sure. Those result in longer term problems and harder to treat circumstances, right? Like, no parent wants somebody to come in, whether, I have a badge and letters behind my name or not, come in and be like, you should parent differently. It's like, excuse me?
Yeah.
Yeah, like parents and kiddos can be poorly matched, even though they can be biological and just like their energies are really different. Their sensitivities don't line up. Their senses of humor hurt each other. Those things can get pretty sticky and pretty painful. And it's just like a day-to-day interaction thing.
Hmm.
More often than not, I've seen kiddos more willing to try something new. Because, like I said, adults are more like, well, I've always done this, right? Like, to a certain extent, even though parents are like, I'm all about my kid, like, they're amazing. It's like they're the newcomer, they should change. You're talking about
Yeah.
an 8 year
Yeah.
old. Like, sorry, what? You're like 38. You're 40, what or whatever age. You change. You do something different. You brought them into this world. You can't just be like, I don't know. I got extremely protective of my clients, even towards their parents.
But also, that's any relationship, though. It's like if you invite someone new into your life and into your space, whether that's a new child or a new partner or a new friend, like you can't just like magically expect them to just like be this little puzzle piece that fits right into your nice, pretty puzzle. Like you kind of have to
Right?
rearrange the picture a little bit.
Yeah, let's make a little room. Let's make a little space. Oh my gosh, the thing that confuses me so much is like when parents are like about a second or, third sibling or whatever, they'll be like, they're not like their older sibling. They're nothing like them. No shit. Like, do you have siblings? I mean, not everybody does, Emily, I know.
Yeah,
But
I'm an
like,
only child.
yeah. Not every kid is made alike, even if they got the same ingredients. Like, my gosh.
Yeah. But I mean, that's just people as well. It's like, oh, my new friend is not exactly like my other friend. It's like, well, yeah, obviously, different interests, different,
Different.
personalities exist. Yeah. It is funny because yeah, that
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
something you hear, I guess, a lot from parents. Friends that have kids now are like, "Yeah, my second is totally different from the first," and it's kind of like, well, there was never going to be a guarantee that they were going to be the same.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah. And that's like part of the thing. Sometimes it can feel a little weird being a therapist because it's like sometimes I just feel like a pal, like pointing out what I find to be somewhat obvious things of just like how the world works, especially to like 12 to 15-year-olds and sometimes to parents. But when it's like, well, now my brain's going blank, but just kind of stuff like that, where it's like, yeah, like your kids aren't going to be exactly the same. To me, that
yeah.
feels like it makes sense. And to some parents, it's like, oh my gosh, I never thought of it like that. Well, I'm glad I'm here.
Sometimes we just need someone objective to be like, yeah, this is a new way of thinking about it, and that's nice too. Yeah, I don't know. I think I admire that you also work with teenagers as well. I think if I see teenagers out in the wild, I like turn the other way. They scare me. There's just something about them. Like, I don't know. I just feel like I say the wrong thing and then they're gonna rip me to shreds. They're just so scary. I was a scary teenager once. I see them now and I'm like, uh-uh.
Teens are a hoot and a half. I don't know. I mean, I love working with littles, but like for some reason in the last year, I've gotten pretty much all my referrals have been like 14 to 16-year-old girls. And I just want to take them under my little wing and be like, come on, let's go see the world. It's all right. Let's do this.
Yeah.
As much as teenagers want to be like, I know so much and rawr, like they're they're scared, they're lonely, they want to be loved. They're just a person with a lot of hormones.
Yeah. It's not their fault. They're just going through some hormonal stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But,
that's
at
fair.
first though, because I was like, oh, the littles, that'll be easy, right? And then my first job, I was also counseling in a high school, and I was like, oh, scary. And then I was like, oh no, you can have like perfectly coherent conversations with a 16-year-old. You can have deep convos with a 13 or 14-year-old. Sometimes you might have to like explain a vocab word or describe a concept, but they like to
Yeah,
just talk to them like they're human. Wait, they are.
fair, fair. And I'm gonna hold the fear. That's a healthy fear I have of teenagers.
Yeah, keep the fear. Keep the
Keep the fear.
Yeah.
So I'm curious too, because I think teenagers, in the way that they have access now to like social media, and it's very damaging. I do think teenagers today have unique resources into like kind of therapy talk on, like TikTok and social media. Do you feel like some of that stuff does more harm than good, or like as a whole, like it can be a good resource? Like, do you ever, is there like an account you recommend for clients to look at or anything like that?
I think that it probably does more good than harm. If the therapy talk stuff is like good content, not like enabling or blaming, right? When you can be taking accountability and increasing awareness, like that's going to be good. Therapy also,
Mhm.
there's like another idea of like therapy is planting seeds. So, even if it's just like a, 8-second video that plants a seed of like, I don't want to be treated like this from somebody else. I think that's great and that's very consumable for teens. At the same time, we get a lot of those like buzzwords that are really diagnostic terms that can be a little concerning. Kiddos coming in and being like, I think I'm bipolar, or like, my mom is so borderline. And it's like, as much as I kind of take diagnoses with a grain of salt, they also do mean something and they can be concerning, right? And like, we don't just like call people autistic for no reason or, like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
I mean, everyone, yeah. I think even not like from a therapy side, but you always hear like people talking about their ex as like a narcissist. And I'm like, I
Yeah,
don't know. Maybe it was just a relationship gone bad. I don't, maybe
right.
they were. I don't know. But
Maybe
yeah, it
they
just
were.
seems very hard to
Yeah,
say.
maybe your parent actually does have narcissistic personality disorder. I don't, not everybody's ADHD. Not everybody knows a narcissist, a true narcissist. Not everybody, like, the OCD thing, so I think like those buzzwords is kind of like a problem, but the accessibility of some awareness, some reflection, maybe some tools on communication, those are really helpful.
Is there anything in, I don't know, whether it's media or movies or like some sort of therapy cliche that just like drives you crazy or you like don't like
That
seeing?
every therapist is going to sleep with their client.
Is that a trope?
Like in
That's
movies?
awful.
Yeah. Oh my God,
Yeah.
totally. Yes. And yes, in like TV shows and movies, it's like their relationship inevitably turns like sexual. Even How I Met Your Mother.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true. That's like a
It's
very
in
popular media
Friends.
example.
It's in How I Met Your Mother.
You're right. Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's gross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Okay.
is a very
That's a good one.
concerning violation of ethics, but it's not everyone. I think there is a lot of emotional intimacy between a client and a therapist, right? And
Hmm.
I think for some people who don't experience that organically in their life, they can mistake it for different kinds of intimacy. And then you're in close quarters and like it might become that way. Like, disclosing something you've never told somebody else or I mean, it's like extra weird because I therapize kids, but it's like, like I know some of the porn that some of my kids watch and stuff, but I'm not like it's not sexual. It's like let's get information and talk about your development.
Hmm.
But I guess maybe I could see how like some adult to adult therapist client, like maybe that becomes sexual. Or like say you're in an unhappy marriage and you're like getting all of that validation from your therapist, and that is like so strongly attractive because you're lacking it so badly in your romantic relationship. But generally,
Hmm.
TV shows, wrong. No, no. But people do
I
lose
like
their
how
licenses over it like a lot.
interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like I like how all your answers are always so like delightfully diplomatic. I love that about you because you're like, this is disgusting. I don't like that this happens in TV, but you're like, I guess I could maybe understand why an adult would, feel this way. I'm trying to like empathize, but then you're like, but also they should lose it, the accreditation. Yeah, not cool.
Not cool.
Yeah, not cool romantic relationships between therapist and patient. That's a good one. I didn't think of that. Yeah, it's true. That is, yeah, in very popular media.
People also do think that like all therapists are crazy, but they think psychiatrists are more crazy. Psychiatrists are the
Why do you think
ones that
that?
do the meds.
So why are the psychiatrists like
I
stereotypically
don't know.
crazier or thought to be crazier? What's the
Why?
what's the truth behind the stereotype?
I actually don't know. Maybe I don't have anywhere to go with that one. I'm just kind of like,
Leave it there.
our psychiatrists
Okay.
are a little out there.
Okay, okay. No, I mean, fair enough. I feel like anyone who puts themselves through medical school has to be like a little crazy in their own special way. But yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to give a diplomatic answer like you do, but we can leave that one. I'm curious though, has there ever been a time where because you're in a long-term, very healthy relationship, has there ever been a time where, a fight is happening and your partner is like, you just therapized me, don't do that again? Like has it ever like kind of bled into, your actual relationship or maybe not even with, your yeah, like with like a romantic partner, even with like, you're talking to your mom and she's just like, come on, don't do that.
Don't therapize me. Oh yeah, Andy, that's my fiance. He tells me don't therapize me. And so I've had to stop or get sneakier about therapizing him. But the one that really gets me is like Andy being like, would you advise your clients to do this, to act the way that you're acting right now? Or, something like that. And then I'm like, excuse you? Because the answer
You're like,
might
now
be
you're using it
no.
against me.
Yeah, like the answer is probably no. Like, and I've said it super
Mhm.
sassy, like, no. But the thing is, sure, I'm a therapist, but like, I ain't a perfect human,
Mhm.
Like, yeah, it's my
But
career, it's
yeah,
my passion, but
yeah. But also like looking at somebody else's life I was talking to a friend about this today where I was talking about a project that I was working on and I was like, I'm just really stuck and I don't want to be I was like I don't want to be, spending 10 hours in Excel like analyzing this data. And she looked at me and she was like, "Man, I wish I had that project right now. That sounds so interesting." And then she paused and she was like, "Actually, it sounds interesting because it's not my project. I'm not responsible for the deliverables at the end." And I was like, "Yeah, exactly." Because if
Hmm.
she was describing this exact project, I would be like, I want in on that. And objectively, the project is super, super interesting. But yeah, I'm just like a little bit stuck right now. And so I'm I'm frustrated with it. And so obviously, like the feelings towards it when it's yours are very different. But that's got to
100%.
be true about everything. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'm like, why can I see these patterns in other people so much easier than like in myself or like like
Yeah.
encourage them, let's have those hard conversations. And then when it comes down to me having it, I'm like, I'm tired. It's like that's not the move. But it's not intentional, you know?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I feel like, no, well, I don't know, maybe that's me being too optimistic. At least amongst my friends, if, there's like some sort of conflict, then I generally look at it like, okay, this person is not trying to hurt me. Like, there's got to be some sort of middle ground we can find here. But like doing that in practice sometimes is very frustrating, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I will, as far as like therapy coming through in my personal relationships, I will more and more like as friends come to me with like relationship complaints or family dynamic stuff, I literally will be like, do you want therapist Heather or do you want bestie Heather? What's the
You're
vibe?
like, because I
Because
will, I will hate this person if you need me to, but that's not therapist, Heather.
right, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Do you want me to blindly have your back in your bad behavior, or do you want me to call you out on your shit? To be fair, I actually ask my clients things like that though too.
I mean, I think sometimes, I guess if it's not like, if I'm not doing something that's like super detrimental, and yeah, in the moment, you just need someone to be like, "You're great, don't worry about it," and then maybe a few weeks later, somebody's like, "How'd that go? How'd that work out for you?" I don't know. That's also,
Yes.
it's a mixed bag,
Yeah. I mean,
but yeah.
I've had I've had the experience of being like, I don't love your choices right now, but I love you, and I'll be here to pick up the pieces with you if everything falls apart.
Mhm. That's all we can ask from our loved ones, you know? We don't all have to be perfect. But yeah, is there anything else as we kind of wrap up this session? Is there anything else just about therapy that, you wish you could say or you feel like we haven't touched on that's like important to you? I'm sure there's way more that, you could talk for hours about this, but anything we didn't get to that you're like, I wanted to tell that story.
I don't know. I mean, I do think it's really cool. Like, my job right now is a little bit different than you might imagine therapy. So, like, you think of a therapist, you come into the office, you sit across from them on a couch or a chair or something, and okay, tell me everything. I have the absolute pleasure of being able to do community-based therapy. So I get to go out to clients in person wherever they may be. It helps engagement in services because a lot of the times the people that I'm working with might have transportation limitations. Like maybe the family doesn't have a car, or even just like maybe the parent works a certain shift that they can't bring the kid to therapy. So I drive to the client at their home, at their school. We can go to a local park or, wherever they feel safe talking with me and is objectively a safe place to talk. I can even transport clients with their parents' permission, pick them up. We can,
Ooh.
yeah, like, we've had a lot of success doing sessions in the car. There's something about, especially for like teens, to not have to look at you square on in the face, especially teen boys. If you can get them like looking at something, like sitting next to you, they're so much more likely to open up and really address some of the stuff that's like in their mind and body. So I'm just so grateful. I have so much flexibility in accessing my clients, plus video sessions and phone call as needed, if appropriate. So,
That's amazing. Well done,
yeah,
California.
I
Fully,
know.
fully support. California should just be its own little country.
Yeah. Whoop, whoop. Well, because yeah, so the model that I work under is the full service partnership, and it's based on programming that was developed in LA County. So it is
Very
like,
cool.
yeah, it's for a bigger team and stuff. So I wear a couple hats within my program, being like a therapist and a case manager, whatever that. But yeah, the program itself is very flexible and very accessible for people who would not otherwise be able to do therapy. The
Yeah.
$200 per session, come in at 4 p.m. and sit there for an hour and then, like, so I
Yeah.
think
No,
that's
I love
important
that
to know about my
detail.
current
Yeah.
job. Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think that's a really, oh, that's so perfect. Yeah, I can totally imagine that, like, driving around in the car, having a soda or, like, going for a walk would be a way better setting for a scary teenager. I say
Exactly.
they're
Yeah.
scary. They're not scary to you.
Scary teenager. My scariest demographic, oh my God, I had a full-on breakdown when I had a like late male client. That was my first,
Really?
like, holy shit, I cannot walk into this room. I don't want to do this. Yeah. I had to get a
Oh,
lot of consultation over it because I was like crying. I can't do this. Like, that was my scary. I
and
got
how did
through
it
it and
go?
we were fine, but
What was it
it
about
was like
someone
kind of
being,
awkward. Go ahead.
oh no, yeah, you're answering my question already. So
It was kind of awkward. Well, okay, okay. It was difficult having my late fees male client, in part because it was for substance recovery and it was very personally triggering because it made me think of my own father who's deceased due to alcoholism, long-term alcohol use. So I was like just kind of generally triggered at that. And I was like, I do not often. I just don't find myself in rooms alone with a 50 something year old man where I'm the quote unquote expert. Like that can be the weirdest thing where it's like you're entering this space where, as the therapist, you're supposed to hold all of this knowledge and know how about like how to human. And then the person themselves, the client, has all the expertise and knowledge of how they specifically human and have historically humaned, if that makes sense. And it's
yeah.
like, I don't know everything and you don't know everything, but we need to respectfully figure out how what I know can fit with what you know. And I've learned through being a therapist, I'm pretty ageist. So I pretty automatically, I'm like, oh, like you're older here. You should be more mature. You should be more knowledgeable. You should be more than me. Because
Yeah.
I was, late 20s and you're in your late 50s. You know more, right? You're ready for
Hmm.
this. No, but somehow I'm the
Yeah.
knowledgeable one about like how to be sober. Like, it was just all
No,
scary.
I think that's so interesting because, yeah, I imagine, on one level, that's hard for you because you're going in and you're like, in your mind, I would assume in your mind, you're like, I have more empathy, for example, for if this guy has children, you're like, I know what they're going through because, you went through something similar, as you said. And
Or,
then, yeah, you kind of go in and you're like, well, this guy's an adult. Like, he should have more answers than maybe he does. But everyone
yeah,
comes from a different set of circumstances. And so, no, I find it really like interesting and self-aware that you were able to be like, oh, this is a bias that I have and I need to fix that or work with it or, overcome it.
be
But
very
yeah.
aware, be
Hmm.
very willing to be fallible as a therapist
Hmm.
and not know things,
Yeah. I think we can all be
hopefully.
better people if we realize. I think if we all realize we don't know a lot of stuff, then we can all be better people. But I like the specific relation to your job. Okay, my last question before we end is what is the weirdest thing that you have ever Googled for work? Is there anything weird that you've ever Googled for work?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for sure. It's like sex stuff and then but then like including like adolescent in it, it's like flagging like
The FBI is gonna like knock down your door and you're like, no, it was
yeah,
for work, I promise.
like I
Yeah.
like compare and contrast worksheet thing about like sex and lust and romance and intimacy, like emotional intimacy, physical intimacy, passion, all kind of like they're all nuanced, they're similar but different. And I was like, how to
Hmm.
explain all of that, like to a teenage girl. And I was like, once I pressed enter, I was like, sounds so gross. Like literally, because I, you know what? I put it in Chat GPT actually before I realized how water intensive AI is. But anyway,
Uh-huh.
I put it in Chat GPT and it literally came up with a notice of like, there is some content that we will not share. That was like in a
You're like,
therapeutic
I didn't mean
sense.
it. Yeah.
I didn't mean it. Yeah, that was weird. And then I have also found myself like deep in Reddit and like wiki pages on looking at like obscure anime and video game descriptions,
Hmm.
which I don't think is like necessarily weird. I just am like the depth at which I've gotten into it is maybe a little bit weird because I'm like trying to look for themes and analogies that I can use with my clients that they might be able to grab onto a little bit better.
Hmm.
So
That's
it's like
so
a
funny. We
weirdly
should compare
time
notes.
consuming.
We should
Yeah.
compare notes because I used to work at a kind of a romance publication tech company. And so oftentimes I'd be looking up tropes and then yeah, Google would be like, this is not suitable for, and I was like, oh gosh, like I should have
Yeah.
typed this in. But sometimes you got to know what it is, like, for your
Yeah.
job, and then yeah, you feel a little bit bad about it. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I was Googling, I'm
I
like,
totally.
don't pop up. Don't like actually show me images, but I was like Googling different like names of porn because I was like, I don't know what that means. Like somebody was talking about like
Mhm.
danger porn, and I was like, I can guess, but like I don't know what this is. And then, so it felt really weird to type that in on like a work government issued computer. Like, what is danger porn?
You're like, this is clinical research.
Yeah, yeah. Also feels silly to like Google things where it's like, that's straight up my job. Like how to help parents help their teenagers. That's my
Yeah.
job,
I think
but
that's
we'll
the
figure it out.
that's the common theme of the whole, yeah. That's why I started, honestly. That's why I started the podcast was I had so many friends be like, "Yeah, I Google how to do my job," but like doctors, lawyers, and I was just like, "Okay, this is not just me." And that made me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, I Google it.
But yeah, we all Google it. But thank you so much for being here today. I had a lovely time speaking with you and can't thank you enough.
Thank you. Any further questions, let me know.
Will do. I'll stop the recording.